There's a version of movement that most people learn early on, the kind that fits neatly into structure, that can be tracked, measured, and validated, that gives you the quiet satisfaction of having done something well because it looks disciplined from the outside. It lives in programs and plans, in numbers and outcomes, in the reassurance that if you follow the formula closely enough, the results will come. And yet, there's a deeper layer that rarely gets questioned, because the body doesn't interpret movement the way the mind categorizes it. It doesn't care how efficient the workout looked, how many calories were burned, or how well it aligned with the plan. It responds to something far more immediate and far more honest: the quality of the experience itself, the internal state you bring into it, and the way your system processes what you ask of it. This is where the hidden divide begins to surface. Something can look incredibly productive on paper and still leave you more depleted and disconnected, even as you convince yourself you're doing everything right. Movement as a conversation, not a command. True movement, the kind that nourishes rather than drains, doesn't begin with control, it begins with relationship. It asks you to shift from directing the body to actually listening to it, from imposing structure onto it, to working with the intelligence that is already there. This changes the entire tone of the experience. Instead of simply moving through positions or completing repetitions, you begin to notice how you're moving, where tension is supporting you and where it's quietly limiting you, how your breath responds under load, and whether your body is integrating the effort or compensating to get through it. The practice becomes less about achieving an external outcome and more about refining internal awareness. And in that awareness, something subtle but significant happens. Movement stops being something you perform and becomes something you participate in. Exercise will always tell you what to do, but movement, when approached this way, tells you how you are. And that distinction determines whether what you're doing is actually building capacity or slowly eroding it. The quiet shift from building to borrowing. Depletion rarely announces itself loudly at first. In fact, it often hides behind what looks like discipline, behind consistency, behind the ability to push through when things feel hard. It can feel productive, even admirable, to override fatigue, to ignore subtle signals, to complete what you started no matter how your body is responding. But over time, the quality of that effort begins to change. What once felt like growth starts to feel like a grind. The body tightens rather than opens. Recovery becomes slower. Energy becomes something you chase rather than something that naturally circulates. And without realizing it, you shift from building capacity to borrowing from it, drawing on reserves that are not being replenished at the same rate that they're being used. This is the cost of movement that is disconnected from awareness. It doesn't immediately break you down, but it quietly accumulates friction in the system until even well-intentioned effort begins to feel heavy. And because it still looks good from the outside, it often goes unquestioned far longer than it should. What nourishment actually feels like. Nourishing movement is not defined by the absence of challenge, but by the presence of integration. It still asks something of you. It requires effort, attention, and engagement. But it does so in a way that leaves your system more organized on the other side, not more fragmented. There is a sense of coherence to it, where breath, muscle, and awareness are not working against each other, but moving in a kind of quiet cooperation. You finish not just feeling worked, but feeling clearer, more grounded, more connected to your body, rather than distanced from it. It's the difference between leaving a session feeling drained but accomplished, and leaving feeling energized in a way that carries into the rest of your day. And over time, that distinction compounds. Because when the body feels safe enough to adapt, it does so more efficiently. Strength develops without unnecessary tension. Mobility expands without force. Energy becomes more stable, more reliable, less dependent on spikes of motivation or external push. Nourishing movement doesn't just build the body, it refines the system that sustains it. The state you bring is the result you get. Two people can follow the exact same program, perform the same exercises, and walk away with entirely different outcomes. Not because the method failed, but because the internal state they brought into it defined how their body received it. When the nervous system is supported, when there is enough presence and regulation to meet the demand, the body interprets stress as something it can adapt to. It integrates the load, recovers from it, and becomes more resilient as a result. But when that same system is already overloaded, already running on tension or fatigue, the identical input becomes another layer of strain. It doesn't build, it depletes. This is why more effort is not always the answer, and why intensity without awareness can become counterproductive over time. The body is always asking a simple question beneath all of it. Is this safe enough to grow from? And the answer is shaped not just by what you do, but by how you do it. Beyond the checklist, there is nothing inherently wrong with an exercise plan. Structure can be powerful, and discipline absolutely has its place. But when it becomes disconnected from awareness, it loses the very thing that makes it transformative. It's the difference between completing a workout and actually being changed by it. Between doing the motions or allowing the motions to move through you. Between chasing outcomes or cultivating capacity. Instead of asking whether you did enough, the more meaningful question becomes whether what you did actually supported you. Did it leave your body more capable or more taxed? More connected or more disconnected? More resilient or simply more exhausted? Real progress is not measured by how much you can push through. It's measured by how deeply your system can adapt, recover, and evolve as a result. That kind of progress doesn't just change how you move. It changes how you live your life.